Welcome everybody to the September 7th regular DSCA meeting, and we extend greetings to you on Zoom and all the people in the room here. Thanks for coming out on a Wednesday afternoon. First order of business is to see if we have a quorum. I know Jamie's going to be a little bit late, and Roger is not here, but so we have a quorum and proceed. So next order of business, we circulated the minutes yesterday. Sorry for the lateness. I was doing the minutes, so I was procrastinating on that, and I appreciate Patrick's help. So does anybody have any comments or corrections to our minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt those?
So moved.
Second by Kathy Sellers. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, consider it adopted. Next order of business is Clark. How are our investments doing, sir?
Oh, they're just swell. Our Seacoast checking account has $9,083.98. Yeah, so we're charging right along here.
Okay, well, good. Thank you. Next order of business, and I'm really happy to have Doug Jeffcoat with us. Doug plays an incredibly important role with the City of Public Works, and we were just chatting about the role he plays in the budget preparation, and particularly including the CIP budget. He has been with the city 27 years.
27 years.
Yes, so that kind of institutional knowledge is something we would all benefit from. Originally, you were in the banking business, I understand, so maybe that's why the financial side of things comes up naturally to you. And as I mentioned in preparing for today, our association is kind of somewhat more focused on the downtown area, and the format we use is asking you to make some introductory remarks, and then we kind of go to a Q&A thing. So we have about 25 minutes, if that's comfortable for you. So take it away. We've got the camera up here and all the folks in the room. So we're really pleased to have you with us, sir.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate being here. And yes, I've been with the city now going on 27 years, 10 years as the Public Works Director, and came to the city as actually running their billing office and doing that. And so I've seen a lot of changes in regards to time here at the city. In my position, you know, I really like more to listen than to talk, but I think it's important. There are three issues that are I think are out there that are going to impact not just downtown, but the city in the next coming year and the years to come. I'd like to kind of talk about those. And the first one is the penny sales tax, the surtax. You know, in November, the county will be putting on the, you know, for the voters to vote on the extension of the penny sales tax. Penny 3 will be coming to an end here in December of 24. And for the city of Sarasota, that was about $127 million.
Over 10 years?
For 15 years.
15.
We went to 15 years in the third extension. They're estimating for the extension, the fourth extension, about $191 million for the city. However, you know, that sounds like a lot of money, but in 15 years, that's really not a lot of money. But it plays an important role. I mean, for Penny 3, you know, there were really important things that were done, you know, like the playground, the circus playground at Payne Park, Robert L. Taylor. You know, those are some of the big ones, the 10th Street boat ramps, Centennial, the upgrades there. And then, you know, those are some of the key things, but Penny plays a big part in regards to some of the ongoing stuff, such as resurfacing of our roads, you know, in the police department in regards to funding vehicles and things of that nature. So, you know, it's an important thing. Sarasota County is the lead in regards to this. All the municipalities, the school board participate. So I would advise, go out to Sarasota County's website. They've got a section on their website related to the penny sales tax extension. It lists out all the projects that all the municipalities and the town and the school board have proposed. And it plays an important role in regards to it. So I advise you all to take a look at it. And without it, it's going to be a big impact on quality of life. So the next one is Smart City Initiative. This was a strategic plan initiative for the city. And for my department in Public Works, there are a couple major initiatives that we're looking at. One is working with the Florida Department of Transportation in regards to what we have is, the automated vehicle connections. As we see these things coming about, if you have newer cars, you're already starting to see some of the instruments and things of that nature. And we're currently working with them. We have a $500,000 grant, and then we're matching that for about $1 million to put some AI technologies into our intersections with equipment. And basically what that's going to do for us is it's going to give us a lot more capabilities in understanding pedestrian movements, vehicular movements, and stuff in the intersections. But the other side of that is with your newer technology and your vehicles and stuff are working through the Department of Transportation in regards to standardized messaging. Your vehicles pick up that messaging as they're approaching intersections. If there are issues that you have related to a certain place. So that's where technology is going. And being able to be a part of that is a key for us in regards to moving us forward. We're in the process of acquiring that equipment. We'll probably look at mid-summer next year, starting to install that. We'll be starting off with about 15 intersections within the city of Sarasota that we'll be looking at that. Another part of that is as you go through intersections, you notice that we have cameras up there, and a lot of times that's what's being used to identify what's happening in the intersection and things of that nature. One of the things that we've seen with cameras is that we run into issues such as storm events, especially here in Florida, where we get fog cameras or we got low lighting. So a lot of the equipment is now being changed out to LiDAR. And what this basically is a 3D imaging, and it eliminates that fogging or those dark spots and gives us a much more clearer look at intersections in regards to pedestrians, bicyclists, and it gives us that ability to manage those intersections in a much better way. And the third one is we just started, and previously Alex Davis-Shaw was our city engineer, and she actually started the process about a year ago, updating our engineering design criteria manual. And that manual is our standards for the city's right-of-way in regards to what impacts developers or buildings can have on that. And there's a lot of changes have happened in the city, and it needs to be updated. We're in the process of going through that update process. It's going to be about a year to go through that. We started with community forums, meeting with different groups. There will be much more input allowed in regards to that because it has such a big impact in regards to that. But I want to make clear that everybody understands that this manual is our standards for the city's right-of-way. Has nothing to do with private properties or anything like that. It's our guidance for the city's right-of-way. Like I said, it's going to be about a year process. It will have to go to the commission for approval. So there will be much more in this next year as it relates to that.
So what's the name of that manual?
It's the engineering design criteria manual. And it's the standards that are set for developers or for even residential people who are coming in and to do something as it impacts the city's right-of-way. And it gives them those standards. And we look for consistency so that everybody knows. And that's been kind of the challenge. The challenge is that a lot of people have said, we don't know exactly what we can do, or in these circumstances, it may be different than the others. And especially as it relates to doing, developers or people who are coming or living in Sarasota County, Venice, Manatee, and stuff like that, that making sure that there's some consistency so that everybody knows they can go to a document, they can see exactly what their responsibilities are. And that's what those are the big three that I see that are definitely going to be play a major role in the next couple of years, and be happy to answer whatever questions I can. And, I open it up to any other topics that you may have as it relates to public works.
Well, let me kick it off by a statement on the penny tax. My understanding is the city cannot actively, legally go out and promote this. You can provide information, but as far as advocating for it. So I think that we want to be an advocate, because I think it goes without saying, without that $191 million, we are in an incredible world of hurt. So particularly in light of a tightening economy, inflation, what would have seemed on the penny tax to be a pretty decent bet 6 months ago may have changed a bit. So,
and that is correct. The state legislature passed rules and laws that said that, the communities, municipalities, and government agencies could not go out and advocate. It had to be the responsibility of the public or groups associated with it to be able to advocate for this. So in my point of view, I can educate, but I can't say one way, don't ask me, am I in favor of it or not? I can only educate.
Is Dan DeLeo leading that campaign?
I'm not sure who has the responsibilities for
I
Sarasota.
know he's done it in the past, hasn't he? Dan DeLeo.
so we'll take that under advisement. I think it's just kind of a duh kind of thing that it's.
So are there more than one organizations promoting the tax?
Yes, there are. I mean, in the past, you've also had your community foundations, Argus, things of that nature. And again, for Penny 3, I can speak about, plays such an important role in our community that all these organizations understand that without those dollars, it becomes a significant burden in other ways to be able to fund the quality of life that we have in the city of Sarasota.
Well, Penny 3 passed without too much trouble, right?
I believe it was like 66%.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, open it up to other board members for questions for Doug. Peter.
With regard to the community input, the standards engineering design manual, do you go out, how does one involve the community? Let's say we want to involve the downtown community association. Do we just call your office and say, we're going to put together a little meeting, or?
Well, Nick Patel is our city engineer, and he's the one who's taking the lead in regards to this. We've hired a consulting firm, Kittleson and Company, and they are the ones who are going to assist us with the process. I would suggest, if you would like for us to make a presentation or have a discussion, I would ask that you send it to me, and then we can arrange for that get together in regards to through the consultant.
Peter, just last week, they did hold a focus group with some neighborhood representatives. Peter and I were there. That was kind of,
and you weren't.
Patrick and I were there, kind of
Better
as a
selection.
focus group as their initial. So they have maybe started that process, and it's something that we are very interested, including Peter. Right? Okay.
Yeah, and just really at the starting point of this, I think the focus groups were kind of to get a sounding board to start off with some of the things, but it's just getting started. So I would imagine to see, as my understanding, there will be at least multiple, when I say multiple, 3 opportunities prior to us even going to the commission for public input in regards to it. I think that it's too early right now in regards to, because the first focus is like I said, there's multiple changes that need to happen to our existing one. And that's what the consultant's really taking a look at is what do we have today? What's that baseline that we're starting with? And then where do we go from there in regards to it?
Well, how long is the process
It's going to be
expected?
about a year. We're figuring to be able to go to the commission November of next year.
Is this how many pounds is this manual?
It's pretty heavy depending on, I think we're trying to shrink it down a little bit, but it is, like I said, it's everything in the right of way. And how do you address that?
Can you give me a sense of what do you see as your top 3 priorities for like in front of you right now? And then also what you see kind of being your personal concerns or projects or whatever you want to call it. When you get a sense of the community or commission feel, and then your.
For public works, and I'm only going to speak for public works. Probably number 1 is the environmental side of it. And when I say that, it's the idea of sea level rise. It's the idea of red tide. It's the idea of more intense storms. Those are the big issues that we're looking at. Second is a balance that we're having to try to now get to as it relates to transportation, vehicle versus people, bicycles, scooters, whatever. In my world, on not the transportation side of it, but the right-of-way side of it is I've only got a limited amount of right-of-way. And now I've got a lot of competition for that right-of-way, where it used to be roads and a 4-foot sidewalk. Now it's roads, bicycle lanes, 6 to 10-foot sidewalk, and landscaping to be able to protect pedestrians. And so that right-of-way with now has a big competition for it. And as I'm sure everybody on this board knows, there's probably a lot of different decision or points in regards to what's more important and how do we make that balance in regards to it. If I were in a place where I was in a county or something like that and I had all this open land to develop, it would be much easier. I'm in an urban environment that's already been built. And now we run into what are those conflict things that we have. And probably the biggest area that we struggle with is an understanding that we're not only talking about what's on top of the ground, we also have to address what's under the ground, because that plays a big role in regards to trees. If I want to plant trees somewhere, well, there's utilities underneath it. I'm not planting trees there, in regards to that. And now that's not to say I can't plant trees there, but there's a cost to relocate those utilities. And where's that money going to come from? So those are the big, things too. I think third for the city is resources. And when I talk about that, I'm talking human resources. In this environment where we're at today, it's the labor and trades are areas that we really struggle in regards to making sure that we can pay them and keep them here. I've had open positions for concrete workers and asphalt workers that have been over a year. And it's just, one, housing. They can't afford to live here. I make an offer to them. They come down, they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, there's no way that I can make it and do it here." And with construction, even though we're looking at the potential of a recession in some eyes and other eyes no. But right now, construction is still heavy. And the mindset is how much money can you put in my pocket today? It's not like when I started with a mindset of, I want to make a career out of it. And that's what I want to do. So that human resources part of it is really the aspect. Now, personally, in regards to that is, how do I retain the ones I have? And it's just not at the labor or trade side of it, it's in my professionals in regards to that, because, you know, it's an idea of, again, my mid-level managers and stuff like that, that are sitting here and saying the same thing of, I can't afford to live here. I'm going to have to start looking somewhere else. And, you know, and those are the ones who are renting and things of that nature that, you know, are struggling with that aspect. We're not alone in this. You know, every government agency is faced with it. And sadly, it's one of those things that we take from each other, because they're being able to stay local. They don't have the cost. They already have a home ownership or something like that. So just kind of moving people around within our communities to do that. You know, so that's probably the biggest thing that I would have a concern in regards to it. Funding for projects is always going to be an issue. And where I see our biggest concerns are, from my side, is the maintenance side of it. A lot of our dollars come from gas tax to be able to pay for our roads and our sidewalks and things of that nature. Since 2005, we've lost about $600,000 a year in gas tax. And, you know, the role of that is probably going to continue based on going from a fuel system to electric. I mean, California has just said, you're going to buy electric or hydrogen, you know, and those things. So that's going to become a big topic in the next year in regards to what is that alternative to the gas tax and how is that going to be funded? Because, you know, across our nation, that's a big thing in regards to being able to fund our roadways.
The gas tax, the drop in the amount of gas tax is purely a function of quantity and miles driven and gallons purchased, as opposed to government getting involved in.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, because you know, the aspect there is the gas tax in the state of Florida really hasn't changed in a long time.
Yeah.
So it's definitely being driven by the amount of usage.
Yeah.
Doug, you mentioned that the climate change is one of your priorities. The Van Wezel's one of our major city-owned assets on the water. Are you able to tell us how much the Van Wezel structure is at risk from climate change?
Well, you know, when you look at the projections, you're looking at 2050, 2070, and being sea level rise coming up a couple feet.
A couple of feet.
Yeah.
If there's a.
What you're looking at is not as much in regards to what that level is what we see in regards to the more intense storms. That becomes the more concern in regards to in the near future. I mean, if you've seen just within probably the past 10 years, and it's surprising, it's not as much as the idea of the tropical storms of the hurricanes that we've had, but our winter storms that have come down and pushed, we've had more damage related to that, to Secreto Pier, to Centennial Park, erosion by Van Wezel and stuff like that from our northern storms, just because of the wave action that's being created, that king tides and the timing of those that have happened that are driving more of our concern in the near future than what we'd be looking at in the long term.
Is there flooding going on now?
Sunny day flooding? Yes, we actually have sunny day flooding happening out on, the key Siesta.
But at the Van Wezel?
Not at Van Wezel, no. The Van Wezel, everything, we've done some work there in regards to right there by Boulevard of the Arts at the end, where we went in and we took out the seawall and made it a soft and took a look at that and monitoring that. We don't see the erosion happening. Where the Van Wezel is, we have pretty significantly in the past, probably 10, 15 years gone in and put in, boulders and things of that to break the water issues. And we're not seeing that as being an issue for us.
Is sewage treatment, with all the growth that we have at Sarasota, and we have sewage treatment on 12th Street, which I drive by pretty frequently, and pretty frequently you sort of get the odors coming out of there. Is the capacity there maxed out, or is
No, actually the city's in really good shape in regards to both water and sewage capacity. I would probably have to defer that to Bill Reeby in regards to all the details in regards to it. But, from a capacity standpoint, what I've heard is that, we're very good shape. I've never heard that we are coming to a point of that being issues. I think, the biggest issues for the utility is the age of infrastructure and being able to replace that infrastructure, doing that. From the sewage side of it, I mean, you read it, the papers and everything else in regards to, it's a big topic. And making sure that we do everything that we can do to control it as much as we can. However, I mean, that's the thing, we don't have pipes on top of the ground that you see every day. They're all underground. And there are things that happen that you just don't control.
So should we have an overriding concern about pipes that are supposed to last for 70 years and are corroding after 50 years and causing sewer releases and so forth?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think, in the 27 years that I've been here, there are circumstances that, like anything that you do in construction. I mean, I've been here where I've seen them bring in pipe for a brand new installation and turn around and have to reject it because it would not withstand the pressures, even being a brand new pipe going in. The anticipation is that.
So it's an anomaly what happened last week or.
Exactly. And that's, when they're in there now, taking a look at the pipe, in regards to sitting there and saying, okay, what does it look like further down? And because piping is put in pieces. And what you may have is the circumstance where you might have just had a piece that just was not done properly when it was manufactured or something of that nature. But when the spill happened, they did go down the pipe to make sure that they had good pipe to be able to put the sleeves on to put pressure back on it.
Andrew, yeah, quickly. First of all, thank you very much for your opening comments about listening and why you're here, which is great to have that. And that filters down significantly to your staff. It was very heartening 2 years ago when Dan Ornstein reached out and said, we're drafting a new landscape chapter for the EDCM. And contacted us. We got our green space committee together and had a dialogue and some feedback on it. And the recent EDCM updates where Nick has reached out and brought in stakeholders, different stakeholders, to put ideas on the table and to listen to that. Those two things, those things go a long way to reinforcing the citizen involvement and that is being called out because this is not pervasive across the entire city staff organization. appreciate that your department is doing that, especially on EDCM and anything environmental, because again, we have committees that focus on those different aspects, and we're more than glad to engage. I know this sustainability, which is not under you, has reached out, and there's some issues with that. Also on your smart city initiatives, et cetera. I don't know if Nick has come across emails from 4 or 5 years ago when I was sending information about curb data and how the technology, and there was conferences in Tampa that some staff went to about the need to understand the standards, because adopting the standards is what gives you the financial control over the vendors. If those vendors can't interoperate, you're locked in, and that prevents you from having a financial flexible system there. And so if we can do some follow-up with you on that. So those are some things that I think there's a lot of knowledge in the city, and the fact that you're tapping into that, I think is exceptional there. So,
One trees, you know, we're downtown the Rosemary. I keep track of hundreds and hundreds of trees being lost. And the challenge of, as you mentioned, of finding right-of-ways that can accommodate those trees. That's why one of the things we were very excited about was the Boulevard of the Arts and the 10th Streetscape projects, where the street would be reinvented and designed with trees, using hundreds of thousands of dollars in tree mitigation money that's available. We also know that a grant that the city went after for $6 million or so did not come through. That my question is the role of grants and penny tax and funding sources. If we don't get the grants, are we dead in the water, or how, I'm saying this badly, but the role of grants in funding some of these major initiatives?
Well, you know, are they dead in the water? No, they're not dead in the water, but they're going to take years to get to. That's the thing. I mean, because again, you know, the cost to construct, especially in today's environment, is not cheap. You know, what we might have been doing several years ago for $3 million is now costing us $6 million to do. You know, so, and again, from a capital standpoint, we've limited in regards to what our funding sources are. Maybe sales tax being the major one in regards to funding. You know, when you look at multimodal fees and things like that, they're specific in regards to what they can be used for. You know, in a lot of the capital dollars, that's the case. They are specific in regards to their uses. Where grants come into play is giving us the capability of using somebody else's dollars and making our $3 million now go to $6 million. Now, what is changed for us is this new infrastructure bill that's come down is different than what we saw in 2009 in regards to the infrastructure bill that came out and the dollars that came out. 2009, everything was done through the federal government in regards to it was directly sent down to the local governments. It was not a match associated. They were grant funds. Requirements to it were not as strict as what we're seeing today. When I say that, really the biggest thing there was making sure that whatever you did, materials had to be made in the US. Because that was the goal here, was to make sure that manufacturing all stayed strong. This infrastructure bill is different. What they've done is that they've taken about 25% of the dollars, and that's what's coming from the federal government down into the local groups. The other 75% is being given to the state. And what's happening is the states are just supplementing their existing programs. And so the grant that you talked about is a RAISE grant. It's a state grant program. And with that becomes more competition in regards to, and the other part is because they are federal dollars and things have changed since 2009, there's more restrictions. And the biggest one is environmental. There has to be environmental studies. And what that's doing is taking what we typically do in 3 months, now saying it's 9 months to get, because I got to get the environmental stuff done first before we go to even take a look at things. You know, in regards to, this is going to be a 5-year process on this grant, where before it was all the dollars were going to be sent down. So the race grant, and who actually got it in Florida dollars were your big communities, Tampa, Miami-Dade, Port Authority. So they were the ones that were like 6 that got dollars out of the first race grant, and they were the big players. Our hopes are is that as we move into the next couple of years, those dollars become more trickle down to the local. We become more competitive in regards to that. But there are multiple grants out there. There's a lot of environmental stuff that we're going after. And there's a lot of other infrastructure stuff that we're going after, cybersecurity and things of that nature. The goal with any grant is to be able to free up your dollars to be able to do something else. However, with these programs, they require a match. And these matches are between 25 to 50% of most of them. So I still have to come up with, if I've got a $8 million project that I want to do, I still got to come up with $4 million just to be able to say that I've got the match for that grant.
Just one more question, please, in the interest of our time here. Any board members? Jim, if you have a quick one.
Yeah, I always have a quick one. Hi, Doug.
Hey,
I understand about the infrastructure issues. We've already about 340,000 gallons of waste that went by. How does it get to be 340,000, which is equivalent of 10 or 12 large swimming pools before it's shut off? Isn't there any leak detection or any pressure change or?
No, in regards to that, that's a question you'd probably have to ask Bill, the utilities in regards to that process. I will tell you that, that's a pressurized system.
Right.
And again, not knowing the size of the pipes or things like that.
Yeah. I mean, we all get that things can leak, but 340,000 gallons is a hell of a lot. What the other quick question is about our wastewater or storm sewers. I think you heard from me on this. I've heard that the county's in charge of cleaning our storm sewers, which in my 15 years, I've hardly ever witnessed being cleaned. And usually when there's a surge or a heavy storm event, they get clogged up because they probably haven't been cleaned. Anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. Just so that everybody is aware, it's through an interlocal agreement that the county has full responsibility of the stormwater system in the city of Sarasota. Because of that, that's full responsibility in regards to that. That interlocal agreement is basically coming to an end. We will be sitting down with them and negotiating that again. In regards to that over this probably next 6 months. But as it stands right now, Sarasota County has full responsibility for it.
Thank you.
Doug, let me just say how valuable this was. We really enjoyed the dialogue. We appreciate you coming and probably invite you back. So we'd like to think of ourselves as a positive association looking for mutual wins and look forward to working with you. Patrick was alluding to our experiences with Nick so far and some transportation people have been really good. And we look forward to building on that. So thank you again.
No, I'm thankful that you invited me and be happy to come back again and further conversation. Please don't hesitate to continue those conversations with the staff. If there are questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Great.
Thank
you're welcome to stick around for the meeting, or you may have better, more interesting things.
There are definitely some other things that I'm gonna go to.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for coming.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate it all. Thank you very much.
Okay, folks.
Excuse me, some of us are having trouble hearing. It sounds very windy. And as far as I can see, everyone is muted who isn't in the room. But it does sound like there's ambient noise from someone who isn't muted, but I can't see anyone who's not.
I agree. It's hard to hear for someone taking notes. So there's just something going wrong with the microphone somewhere.
Remember last week?
Like that we turn the fans.
We turned the fans on last week. I do hear the.
The AC is on.
There's a bit right there.
Let me turn that.
Okay, we're gonna fiddle with the air conditioning system here and see if we've got a vent above the monitor that, because I experienced a little bit of an issue last week myself on the Zoom, so we'll work on it.
Thank you.
Try and talk a little louder. Okay, our next item of new business is to welcome a new, or to formally welcome a new gold member, Hot Wire Communications. And Kristen and Jamie, can you help with the introduction here, please?
Steve Shaw for Hotwire. We do some events together in other areas, so I
Thank you very much. It's an honor to join the organization. If I have to borrow a minute, I can just tell you who we are, because we help with the largest independent telecommunications company in the country that you've never heard of.
Okay. May I do one thing first? May we, let's entertain a motion to welcome you as a member. So may we have a motion to
So
welcome Ken, and we've got a second.
Please second.
Okay, and all in favor of welcoming Steve?
Aye.
Okay. All right, sir.
Thank
Now
you.
you can go ahead.
Thank you very much. Hotwire was founded actually in the Fort Lauderdale area. We are a Florida-based company, but we are now 1,500 people strong in 22 states. We are built on a fiber optic network that we build and operate ourselves. And the reason, quite frankly, that you probably have not heard of us is because we don't advertise. We only deal with HOAs and condo associations and bulk agreements that we serve to those associations. The technology is fiber, and it's fiber right to the home. So every single unit that we service literally gets 2 strands of fiber going right into the home. So it's a subtly different technology. I saw a survey recently that said the 2 most hated industries in America are the airlines and the cable companies. We're out to change that. We have a literally what we call a concierge level white glove customer service approach. We are very personal in terms of how we deal with our clients. We have some of the most exclusive properties in the state of Florida. We are a household name on the East Coast. We've been in Naples for about 10 years, and Sarasota, I'm happy to say, is a new territory for us. I'm a Lakewood Ranch resident, just moved here a year ago. So half my job is to introduce myself and sell our services. The other half is to make sure organizations and properties like yourself know who we are. So I'm honored that you have allowed us to become a sponsor, and I hope to be a very visible supporter of the organization.
Well, welcome, sir.
What can you do for 18-story buildings in the downtown?
We've actually just signed 2. We are in talks with 4 others right now that are getting very serious. And
But you can't retrofit.
oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. We basically follow existing conduit. So in terms of running our fiber, it's very easy. We're actually installing a new fiber trunk from Bradenton down Tamiami Trail out to Longboat Key, and we've just signed two 301 unit 300 unit properties on our whole Cape. So you'll be hearing a lot about us in the next year or two.
Do you have a website that would be helpful to anybody?
Absolutely. Hotwirecommunication.com. We are not hotwire.com, that jingle that gets in your head and drives you crazy. We are hotwirecommunication.com, and I'd be happy to provide my business card as well today.
I just have a quick question. This building already has fiber optic into each unit. Is there room in those conduits to run a second fiber network?
Yes, there is. And again, the difference between our fiber and Frontier or some of the other fibers that might be in, when you get into a lot of units, a lot of single family homes, the fiber runs to the unit, but then you rely on copper, you know, the 60-year-old copper cable that goes inside. We are fiber all the way through and it's wireless inside the unit. So everything remains in that native fiber.
Okay.
Great, well, welcome, and
Thank you.
Thank
it looks like a very interesting technology. Moving ahead to old business, something not very complicated is the comp plan amendment and inclusionary zoning. And Patrick, can you help better explain this? It's my understanding that the city planning department plans to move forward with bringing comp plan amendments before the city commission in the meeting on September 19th. And that if traditions of standard practices are in place sometime before the end of the week, there should be the agenda for the 19th promulgated by the city with the backup material that could involve what I understand to be 5 ordinances. Patrick, can you embroider on what I've said and your understanding of where things are at?
Well, I think as we had put out before in a news item that the planning department was essentially actually separating out or bifurcating the set of ordinances they're bringing back. And it's not exactly clear where that division is and where the commission mandated process to add or to review how inclusionary zoning could be incorporated, how that then gets put into this series if they're done in 2 separate tranches. And the first one gets approved maybe without even knowing what's going to be coming in the second tranche. So that's where there's concern. Right now, there are our member condos have submitted board resolutions that they've taken, asking the commission to take steps and delay or something else related to that. So that's where I understand the process to be, that the planning department is moving ahead with the goal of having it all completely approved by Monday, November 7th, the day before the elections, where the new city commissioner will be elected. Or the 2.
So given where we are with this, Peter and I talked about this a little earlier today, and I have a suggestion, actually taking Peter's suggestion, and that is in the next couple of days, we should be able to see specifically what they are proposing. And number 2, Marlon is speaking at the CCNA meeting on Saturday. So my personal recommendation, subject to others, and Peter, is that we schedule an executive committee meeting sometime early next week, say, once or after we get a chance to digest this Tuesday-ish, to look at what has specifically being proposed and what Marlon has to say on Saturday, and evaluate, shall we say, our opinions or our possible opinions on that at that time. rather than sending a communication authorizing a motion and sending the communication today. So what do you folks think about that?
Well, the intent of that, if I can explain a little further, is that, we don't take a public position that the board hasn't approved.
That the former president was storing those top secret and classified documents at his private estate at Mar-a-Lago.
I don't really have any comments on this.
Come on, Peter, mute.
Nominated for the last month. I think we're following.
Those on Zoom, please mute, please. We're picking up CNN or something.
So, but we won't have enough information today to do this. So if we could announce an executive committee meeting for next week at some point in time, provide the board members with information and a request that here's where the information resides. Please take a look at it. If you have any suggestions, get back to an executive committee member, and then the executive committee will meet and decide just exactly what they're going to do with it. And you're kind of telling us, the board would give the executive committee approval to do this, to make a public statement that we would then distribute to you. That's why we're going this route.
I think it makes good sense. I mean, to be honest, I think that we've got some people who are definitely more, versed in this, who've got I certainly don't feel qualified to do that, but we have people who really seem to know it in and out, and I think that's a great idea. I would like it to be pared down a little bit so I could digest it a little bit.
Is this just about the timing? Is that what you?
It's pretty much, in other words, if we knew we had a month to 6 weeks, we could bring back to the board, this is what this is, this is what, and have a board discussion about it. But we don't know just what's going to come out. We have an idea. We've heard rumors just as you have, and I guess there was some discussion yesterday at the city commission meeting, maybe, or did I get put aside?
No, that was just, it was
Okay,
related.
so yeah, it's because of timing, Ken.
Yeah, it is mainly timing.
And it's a one-topic executive committee meeting.
Yeah, I wouldn't see a problem with that, but if it's the substance of the proposals, then that's a different thing. It's much more complicated.
Well, we don't know what we don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
let's,
So I don't want to say yes to what I don't know.
Right.
I want to know what I'm saying yes to, and if it's just timing, I can handle that.
Well, that's what the provision would be when that information comes out. The executive committee or somebody on the executive committee will distribute where you find that information. You can take a look at it and then communicate with the executive committee what you believe should be there or not there. And then the executive committee would take that information.
I guess I'm having trouble understanding. The timing would be, they're going to move ahead on the current schedule, or they're going to.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is the only way we can make a formal statement. We've been asked to make a formal statement, but and other associations have made formal statements, but we don't think we ought to jump in at this point with the limited amount of knowledge we have as to what they're going to propose.
Exactly.
The ask today is to just get a committee together who will take a look at the substance of everything and then put it in a format that everyone can understand.
Well, that seems different than what you just said.
She did a better job explaining my point.
Well, that changes my view.
Well, I don't see how we can't discuss the substance.
Well, I'm not saying, I just need to know what's going to go
Yeah,
on.
'cause I don't
If
think
you're
we're
talking
really-
about timing only, that's, I understand that. It seems like a rush to judgment to have it done by before November 7th. If that's the issue, fine. But I mean, otherwise it's, who knows what the subject might be.
Well, then in
Or how
answer to
many
your question, it's more than timing. I mean, if it were just a timing issue, we could do something like the Bay Plaza condominium did and say, essentially, don't do anything until we have a better idea. And one of the urges the Sarasota City Commission to reject any amendments to the comprehensive plan that allows increases, et cetera. So they took a wide perspective that I don't think we can take quite yet. That was in there. That's the only reason I referenced that, because it was in your board package.
So it's, my understanding what you're discussing here, is simply the president calling a executive committee meeting sometime early next week. Once the agenda for the September 19th meeting is proposed, with the intent to evaluate it and then inform the full board of what you're seeing. I mean, what's there, a summary of some sort. But potentially coming out of that is then a recommended statement or review by the board directors to then say, yeah, we're good on that or not. Because the idea would be you would want to have a statement issued, what, by Friday or so?
Or before, yeah, Thursday or Friday.
Right. So that's, but right now, as I understand, the key concern we had the building height limits remain in the comp plan. That change was made at, we were advocating for that change. Now the question is, does the DSA, does the downtown, do we have a burning interest need in the timing of this? And one thing I noticed in looking at some documents, certainly the northern portion of our territory from basically here northward, which is part of our neighborhood, is affected by some of those other changes, not the height thing alone. And whether or not people have had sufficient time to understand the nuances in their neighborhoods. And so I think that would be the reason, is to simply have a more focused, maybe neighborhood by neighborhood or target area by target area series of meetings.
Okay, so who is our executive committee? It would be, I would suggest in this case, obviously, I would be involved, but Patrick is a subject matter planning.
It's the offices and the president's emerita.
Okay. Right. Then we'll do that, and I'll try and set something up on Tuesday or Wednesday next week that mutually, possibly a Zoom, or we could get together.
Do we have a sense that Marlon Brown is going to be talking about, is this going to be the gist of his conversation at CCNA? Then do you get that feeling on Saturday that they're going to press a little bit on this? With Steve? Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I would guess.
Alrighty.
He's asked for a half an hour.
Okay.
That's basically all I know.
He asked or they invited him?
He asked.
Okay, so that's a little different. Okay, all right.
Okay. All right, so do we need a motion on this, or is there a consensus to move ahead? Peter, pick a motion. It was your concept, actually.
I'm not sure you need a motion to have an executive committee meeting.
Okay.
You just have to announce it.
Feedback.
Okay.
As long as people are comfortable with this procedure there.
And Ted is raising his hand as our CCNA rep. Do you have
a quick question? Is that if there's any vote at the CCNA meeting on Saturday, obviously you want me to abstain and not vote on either way, but do you want me to mention that a letter will be coming from our board, or just not mention anything?
I don't know if it's no, I don't know if we'll have a letter, and I just
have nothing.
Say nothing in my opinion. We're abstain, and for the moment, we need more information.
Right.
Okay. Okay. One other thing I wanted to bring up, and we did circulate it with the backup material, is community workshops. It's kind of what happened is in June, unbeknownst to about anybody, the city has modified their community workshop procedures and protocols to where the applicant is going to be responsible for much, much more as opposed to city staff. That combined, I think, with potential comp plan changes or zoning is potentially concerning, but the cat's out of the bag. They have adopted this at yesterday's Monday's commission meeting. It was in effect voted on as 4-1 to move ahead and sustain that new situation. So I think that's I don't think it's necessary for us to get into today, but it's part of the puzzle, shall we say. and of some concern. Anybody have any comments on?
My biggest concern out of the whole thing is looking at it. I know you threw in the 500 feet and I get that. One of the things that I think is overlooked sometimes, and it doesn't spell it out here, it has been that associations, the association front office has been made aware of a permit or but it's not put out to the individual dwellings. And I think there's a big distinction that has to be made here, which is not really delineated in here at all. I think that, you know, being downtown at the Mark, I mean, we've been overlooked at a lot of things because they said, well, 500 feet is your front office. They are the ones, and it's their job to distribute. So you really are put at the mercy of who you have in your management office. Now, we have petitioned for and now have received that. I'm just wondering, that's not mentioned. It would take every condo, or does every condo owner have to put on there a petition for them to make sure that everything is released for certain members within the building? But that is a big thing when you're talking about the downtown.
Well, could we talk about that offline?
Yeah.
So just as a point, as I understand and it's still going to occur, that the email or the mailing list is extracted by the city clerk's office, and they will make that mailing list available to the applicant, to who to send to. So they pull that based upon the parameters of where the subject change is for that. And I know for a fact that being within 500 feet of the Bay Park and 500 feet of the quay, that individual unit owners get the notices from the city. For those, both for the land development, but also for community workshops. Now, one thing that is quite helpful is those notices come to you with a city envelope. And I don't know how many of you get in your mailboxes and there may be one or two pieces that you save out and you're busy going through. And if I get something from XYZ land developer, I think it's somebody else trying to sell me something, and it goes where some of the insurance and some of the other stuff goes. It's not pertaining to what I'm. So that's the only point is that if it's not going out on a city letter, somehow, how are people even going to know that it's an official city notice? For one,
that's a good point.
Secondly, is there is a template for the community workshop notices that you receive, and you get, oh, I can see what, yeah, that's one of those. If it's on, again, XYZ developer's letterhead, yeah, is the public gonna understand the importance of that? And so it would seem to me that the clerk's office should be providing the actual notice, PDF of the notice, whatever, that they can then mail out. So that's the feedback. And one of the points that I was making earlier was you have city staff that have now implemented a change to an internal guidance process called community workshops without ever involving the community, i.e. the affected parties. So making a change to a process that affects the community, and no community was involved in that change. And in fact, while David and I met with Marlon Brand in July, was it? And other CCNA have met with Marlon and others, no mention was made by city staff that, oh, by the way, we've changed this and here it is. We're not able to find a red line version. So that's where there's concerns as to, apparently the city commission approved this and it's a done deal. So at this point, all we can suggest is vigilance to seeing what sort of a notices come out and whether or not, as Kathy points out, are they going to every property owner? The condominium, every unit is a property owner on this county's registrar, as a property owner. And my understanding is the rules, right, of the zoning code or whatever, is that they are mailed to property owners of the affected properties.
But it's not. Can I say something?
Anyway, okay. So that would be my suggestion is that in terms of how do we raise the concerns? Well, we weren't asked, so all we can do is wait and see if the impact. But
99 Bottles, which is across from the Whole Foods driveway, with most of the familiar, is coming up for zoning, and you're probably aware of that. And the letterhead was from 100 Central, who's affected party. They papered every door, every condo owner's door. The condo owners weren't notified specifically, but the general manager.
Community workshop or the.
They know that he wants to change the offers that he made, so it's a zoning change. And, but it was David, the manager of 100 Central, that put up everyone's door.
But I always came in the mail, so that's strange, because we should be treated, I mean, it should be some consistency, so that's my whole point.
Yeah, that's.
So we got something that's implemented, we'll follow it. Not sure what to do, but. it's
Maybe
considered.
for October, you invite Sheila Griggs, our clerk. We've not heard from, she is one of our municipal officers, right? Charter officials. We have 3 charter officials, city manager, city clerk, and city attorney. So,
Well, let's think about that, okay? Sit and lie, which we probably talked about it last month, was pulled from the August 1st, was it?
It was pulled.
It was pulled in a strange, it has gone into a black hole as
Well,
far
it was
as.
pulled from second reading. First
Yeah,
reading
but-
got
yeah.
already passed.
Right.
Second reading
It
was
was
scheduled,
pulled.
and it was
Yeah.
on a 3-0 vote because there were only 3 commissioners.
And I tried to find out some status today without any luck, and
I
we,
didn't either.
so we don't know where that stands. It was said when it was pulled by Marlin, I believe, it might have to move to December or January because of agenda, so, right?
Well, they pulled it and scheduled for a date uncertain.
Date uncertain.
So I spoke with Commissioner Brody today. He sees this and he was very passionate about it, very upset that this happened. He sees this as being very underhanded, the way that it was handed. He has tried to champion this since this is something that he wants to see through fruition. And he is asking, he wants it to be brought back. He wants it to be brought back at the next commission meeting. And he would like people to come and comment on it in public comment. And then he will lead in with it so that he can make a motion to get it put back on before he's actually out of office.
But what I saw Fournier's opinion on this is Brody has to bring an agenda item to discuss the timing to bring it back for a discussion. So it would be a 2-step.
My understanding in speaking with him is there was a workaround around this. If it was brought up by public comment, he could bring it up at the commission and get it addressed right there because it was brought up in public comment.
Not usually under the city rules of procedure. You can bring something up at public comment, and under commissioners' comments and public notice, a commissioner can say, I heard from Ken Sheelan, I think we ought to put this on the agenda for the next meeting. I don't think you can just say it came up. In fact, you can't address something brought up at public comment. You can't even ask a question of this person.
Right, so my understanding is they could schedule it at a future, he can make a note and it has to be put on the agenda for a discussion.
Well, he can still do that for the next commission meeting. He can ask for this item to be put on the agenda. Once it's put on the agenda, then any public can comment on an agenda.
Would the agenda be the discussion to happen, and then based on that discussion, they would have to approve bringing it back for second hearing? Right? Or
you can bring it, you
I
can
guess the
put it on
question-
for discussion, and then you can have public comment on it.
I think his thing was, he would like to have comment, and I said, it's really hard to rally people you've rallied for the last 2 years, and then it just got shut down like that, and he's very befuddled by the whole thing. But that would be, I asked him what could be done at this point. He's like, this would be the biggest thing that you could do, bring it front and center at a commission meeting, in public comment, and it will then, he'll be asking to have that be set for, nothing would be discussed at that meeting, but so that it would be brought up and put on the agenda.
For second reading.
Yes.
Okay,
So, and keep the, sit in line, keep it to a loitering issue. He continues to talk about, so we can discuss that more, but,
okay. I don't know if there's.
yeah, no, there's nothing more.
Okay. Kathy, we're running a little late here. Is there anything, key things you'd like to
No.
mention about city update?
Just the smoking ban, that was passed, and
Right.
I don't know how they're gonna enforce that, but they're looking into the ordinance and writing that up, so. And really the only beach that they can control is Lido Beach, so that's basically what it is.
A smoking ban on the beach.
On the beach, and actually they're looking to expand, and in the parks, and they're looking to expand it to the parking lots, city-owned parking lots as well.
Well, the parking lots may be designated as a smoking area. Not, in other words, the smoking area was to be, generally speaking, parking lots.
Okay.
Like on Lido, parking lot, it's okay to smoke.
What's the enforcement mechanism? for
Well, this
that?
is exactly what I think is that they need to get to, so.
There is none.
It would be the police that was discussed.
Would be a.
With the body cameras, taking a picture of the violation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know,
That's
I
not gonna
know.
have any priority.
Right.
Yes, the other thing, I know that there's something going on between the DID and the city that they're asking for some monies to be returned to them, $400,000, and I think that they're setting up another meeting. They're gonna meet in a private meeting between the city and the DID so that they can get some clarification as to funds.
Yeah, Marlon did it without telling me.
Yes, so, but that would be the other thing. Yeah, really, nothing else that's not gonna be talked about in other areas, so.
Okay. As far as something I would say, yesterday, Monday, there was a first reading or first approval of the city budget for FY23 and the CIP budget. Doug Jeffcoat told me at the beginning of the meeting, I mean, there was no discussion. It was just voted on with no discussion. Doug said he's never seen that in the city in his 20 or however long he's been in remembers. So there is a second on the 19th maybe or whatever it's formally adopted. The millage rate has been set, but it will be blessed in a couple weeks. But it was rather interesting to me. There was absolutely no discussion from the
Discussion of what?
the budget, some of the items of the budget. 450.
Was there something we wanted discussed?
No.
No, I'm just wondering why. What difference does it make? If there was something that was left out, that's really something that's important, but just a discussion, if there's no discussion needed. I don't know why.
It sounds to me like the commissioners had no negative critiques and were ready to approve it, that they had gotten information on all the prior individual budgets workshops where they built into each one of the different subcategories. Okay, we're satisfied.
Or they were
Things-
answered one-on-one.
Right, and that things that like we cared about got funded, and therefore there wasn't a big protest, right? Or
Well, actually, as Doug said, the Boulevard of the Arts and 10th, they were funded in the budget
through the other.
but the $6 million went away for the grant. So all of a sudden it isn't funded. So, all right. Committee reports. Ken, I know you have something.
Okay. Everybody should have gotten a copy of the Van Wezel brochure for this season. There are 8 Broadway touring shows, including Aladdin, which is the biggest one, I think, and it's going to play 8 performances over about a half a week. Amy Morrison, who's a local singer, I think some people probably know her, just finished a run at Feinstein's in New York City and did very well, and apparently has been asked to come back. That's good for us. I don't know whether anybody's been over at the Arts Center recently, but there's been some renovations at the Art Center, and there are some new shows, and there's a new CEO. And it looks like it has a new spirit and new energy there. So I would encourage you to go. There was particularly a good show that I saw about a week ago by a Ringling student, Jesse Clark. To Friday afternoon at Florida Studio Theater, the Arts and Cultural Committee is going to meet with the staff there to talk about their proposal for the 10-story residential building adjacent to the structure on 2nd Street. There's a parking lot there right now. What I want to make sure of is that when they come to talk to us in October, that they're prepared to answer some questions that we might have instead of just doing a dog and pony show. You know, if we have questions about parking, if we have questions about what kind of retail is going to be in the building, if we have questions about lot line to lot line construction, you know, that they're prepared to answer those kinds of questions. Are they going to ask for any changes in what is the term when you want an exception to a rule, a variance? Yeah, they're going to ask for any variances associated with the project. So they'll be. I hope they'll be prepared to answer those questions when they come in October. That's it.
Okay, on events, the coming up first on the 22nd is the candidates forum. Peter and I were on the DSA board at the DSA board meeting today where that was discussed. We circulated with your advance packet the agenda and format document. And Peter, this is broadly speaking what was used in the past.
We've used this or some variation of it for the last 3 candidate forums.
Have any of you looked at that and had any comments on that kind of format? Did you get the board?
No, didn't get the board agenda either.
Or packet? And Clark didn't. What the heck?
You didn't get it either?
You weren't registered on Wild Apricot for whatever reason. It didn't show up in mine. But you
Was I
were
registered?
Registered, it goes to the, there's a
Doesn't
different.
it go to everybody?
No, there's a specific list for board packets. So I don't know who they sent it to.
Maybe it went to a spam folder.
Maybe I'm not supposed to be here. For now.
Well, we'll obviously get that to you for comment. And so we also, Peter and I drafted not the questions, but the categories of questions. And Bob, did you get the packet?
I did.
Okay. And you?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. And we had identified 6 categories of questions. One category was a more walkable city. One category was managing our city's growth, which would include, of course, the comp plan. One was affordable housing. One was sustainable economically and culturally. One was daily quality of life. So that would catch your noise, homeless and stuff. And then the final one was city government efficiency. And that was our shot at the categories. And I'll make sure that you folks get this. So if you have.
The intent was, we didn't want to formulate questions and bring a set of questions. So we came up with 6 categories. If somebody has a 7th category, let us know, we'll get it out. And we made some suggestions under each category, like a more walkable city, streetscape and connectivity. You know, DSCA has always been for the last 20 years talking about connectivity and so forth. Sustainable, economic and cultural, loss of the orchestra, county administration building, moat, role of the arts, culture and green space, performing Arts Center in Van Wezel. So we made some suggestions. And what we'd like now for you to do is to communicate back to David and me, either way, I guess would be the best way, any questions that you want to formulate around these categories. What we will do is we will try to have all 6 categories represented with a primary question. In other words, let's say we get 3 questions on category 4, sustainable economics and culture. We will try to meld 3 questions together into one good, concise question, or there may be you hit it right on the nail and we're going to adopt your question, but we'll try to have 6 primary questions as well as 6 secondary questions should we have the time. And those will be the questions that we use in the candidates forum. We will possibly have the time, a shotgun round, which is always kind of fun. Yes, no, don't get in the way, Dan. Question. Those kinds of things. And we will have 15 minutes, try to have 15 minutes for direct audience questions. And the way we usually hand that is you get a 3x5 index card when you come in, you write your questions down. Bob Barolo and Patrick will go pick up the cards. They will sort them into, so it's all of the same procedures we've used for that has made this a success. So but we want to get as much input from the board as we can with questions, because you're far more expert on some of these areas than we are.
And we set as a deadline for the questions the 14th.
The 14th, right.
Right. So we've got time to wrap our minds around this. Any comments, concerns?
No, it's just a good reminder that you brought it up because I had mine and I just didn't send them. So I'm going to do that before I leave today.
Okay. The next topic, Jamie and Kristen on
Yeah.
our workshop.
Yeah, the workshop is moving along a lot better than the last event we planned. So we are already over 40% capacity. We've sold out all of our tables. We're hoping for a sold out event. That being said, still, please sign up, come to the event. And I think all we have left are a few sponsorships to sell. Good start. Let's see if you.
And Karen says she said no travel.
Bill Deal.
Oh, okay. If you have purchased a table, I have sent you an invoice, please pay it.
Short and sweet.
Wow. All right, well, thank you. The brochures, the flyers are looking very
much more
good.
aggressive marketing. We're gonna, you guys should be already getting the emails to sign up.
Really nicely done.
Yeah, and we're kind of changing them up every time so they catch people's attention.
Did you get resolved as to who's speaking on behalf of the city or not?
No, Larry Murphy was out of the office through today. He's supposed to be back tomorrow. I will be in touch with him. Lucia knows it's important.
Whoever is speaking, right? Is there any way, and one of the things that goes out or something, that we can have a notice from the city as to what to tell condominiums to do when they have conducted their structural repair report? I mean, we've had condominium, we have members who have conducted their inspections and reviews and have reports from engineers. But I don't know anything has been conveyed from the city to our members as to who to send those to. Is there, you know, and so
it's a work in progress.
I know, but if we can get that answer, and I would put the pressure on the city. It says, come on, don't show up at the meeting on October 20th and say, we're still working out who to send it to. I mean, I would think that there should be some statement.
Now, one thing,
Anyway, that would be
Larry,
suggestions.
I don't know how to handle this, but Larry Murphy asked, would we disclose the member reps of our buildings? And we won't do that.
No, I mean, we've had our Nancy Kelly from Neighborhood Services, and all we simply say is send us your notices and we will forward them, and we can forward it to a very targeted. We can, I mean, we know, you know, in terms of the people who are member reps, et cetera, but usually it's multiple people. You have your member rep, and the mayor may not be on the board, and whoever is your building contact. So we can handle sending out notices if they would simply provide us with some sort of notice or something like that, or information like.
Okay.
Wait a minute, Kristen, that's.
Can I comment? So I'm finding, like, I'm hoping Travis Moore can speak to this because he does a lobbying up in Tallahassee. So I feel like this kind of fog over the issue is because they're not actually, given a direct, they're not being told who's exactly in charge. There's several municipalities that are kind of involved in the reporting process. So I think they don't even know. So I'm hoping he can speak to that because I've got nothing. And if I don't get something from Nick or that, party, then I have nothing.
All we're trying to do is say, yeah, please, somebody decide.
Okay. I get you. Okay, green space.
Nothing.
Homeless, Peter.
I don't want to take up too much time, but as part of the discussion of LICIT ordinance, what happened was that a very well-meaning and a very accomplished person sent an email to the city commissioners on July 31, and which pretty much said, we don't need a second reading of the SIT-LI ordinance. What we need is something else, a task force to regenerate concerns, et cetera, et cetera. It generally was a good idea, and it went in, and I think that had an influence on why the commissioners wanted to kick the can down the road on the second reading. So what I'm proposing to do, and I'm asking the board what you think about it. I think that the suggestions made in this person's email to the commissioners were excellent. I really do. I'm not denigrating the email in any way, but I think it was made without some context that's historical. One of which is that in 2016, on November 28th, the city commission approved a contract with the Florida Housing Coalition and implemented that contract in April of 2017, and asked Dr. Susan Peugeot, project manager of FHC, to come in and develop what they were calling at that time a crisis response system, a homeless crisis response system, which then they put Tom Bowen in charge of implementing it. And he did, and Peugeot came in, and that's how we ended up with the Suncoast Partnership to End Homelessness being the lead agency. That's how we ended up with the more robust Salvation Army response and the hot teams and so forth. There are a set of recommendations in Susan Peugeot's report that that mentions and implements a number of things that the person was responding to in the email. So what I've suggested and what I would like to do to just cut to the quick of it is that I'd like to word a motion for consideration seeking the board approval that'll allow me or any other board member to engage the author of that email to the city commissioners to pursue what she's requesting, establishing a task force and bring back a plan to this board for input and approval. Now, what the task force was suggested in that email, maybe some of you saw it, is establish a task force to audit and evaluate individual needs, the public safety, health and welfare, and economic issues in the city of Sarasota related to individuals in need of support based on conditions of alcoholism, drug addiction, mental illness, and/or domestic abuse, and behaviors of people panhandling people, loitering, transient people, some people living without shelter, some people sitting or lying on the sidewalk. That's a direct quote out of the email. All right. And those are the things that Peugeot's report was trying to target. What I want to do is, rather than establish a new task force and come up with a new report, is to set up an evaluation system, a task force to set up the evaluation of Dr. Peugeot's recommendations and the city's implementation of those as almost a research or an evaluation project to look at how successful the city has done in doing that. And based on that, we would have some statistical data, some evidence for making recommendations to go forth for another 5 years. we also would look at the economic impact that that report and those things have had. So that's what I'd like to do. Take the task force idea, take the suggestions that were made in that email, turn those suggestions into an evaluation, and come back with a report that this person and the person they are working with, I don't know if it's she or he or they, are working with, and then would move forward rather than trying to get another whole new task force, because I think that's what kind of, in talking to Bob Fournier, kind of got in the mix there a little bit with, well, we don't really need to the sit-lie ordinance. All we need to do is come back and, you know, kind of look at enforcement and stuff. But I think it's a bigger, broader issue. This person brought in all the issues, and I would like permission from the board for me to engage the author or anybody else you want on the board to engage the author of that email, and then try to bring back a plan to establish an evaluation task force.
So moved.
So there's been no other evaluation?
No evaluation I can see, formative, summative, any other kind of.
Is there a second?
No formal
There's
evaluation.
a second here.
Well, wait.
Yeah. Okay, Bob, seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Transportation, Roger is not here, and
Kathy, it's on health and safety.
Oh, we kind of talked about that.
Transportation, any, I haven't heard anything about the roundabout, or as far as I know, it's still moving ahead for late this year. Zoning, we have talked about the comp plan and all that drama. Is there any other discussion on zoning? I think that's so. Bay Park, Bob?
Bay Park, big news, you know, the grand opening October 15th. I'll be going to a meeting prior to the candidates forum on the 22nd for all the Bay Park community outreach partners. So I should have a little bit more information. The flyer is pretty good. The entertainment looks like it's first rate that's going to be there. I think it's going to be pretty exciting and really looking forward to it. And there's a button on that flyer to click if you would like to volunteer. They'll be looking for volunteers throughout the property for those 10 days for whatever you could sign up for.
So the 15th of kickoff, and then the following 9 days, there's going to be different activities
There's some
scheduled.
different
each day.
events with different venues and targeting different
My understanding
segments of
is the ribbon cutting is the 21st, if I'm not mistaken, for what that's worth. But there's lead up, there's food events and all sorts of stuff.
So we got a little competition on the 22nd forum, right? No, I mean on our annual meeting, then, right? I mean our workshop.
On the 20th, I don't know exactly what's going on that night.
And DSCA is having their annual, DSA is having their annual meeting on the 18th.
Correct.
Yeah, so we got to push our meetings heavily.
And Ted just informed me this evening that lawn bowling is going to be shut out of the Bay Park. So they've lost their season. And I'm going to speculate, maybe on the 22nd, we'll learn what they have in mind for that particular area of the Bay Park. It sounds like there's something that's afoot. So we'll find out.
Ted, do you have anything quickly to say about the lawn bowling situation?
No, we're basically there. We have an anonymous donation has been made to the city of $400,000+ to build new greens for us at Bobby Joe's.
Great.
And hopefully
Great.
we'll be open sometime in May or June of this coming year, but we have lost a season.
Okay. Rosemary update.
You cover CCNA.
Oh, sorry. Ted, CCNA.
We don't have another meeting till this week, till Saturday. It's the first one we've had since June. There's no July. I would make one quick thing from the prep board. I also sit on. It's interesting for the parks and for the downtown. We're working on getting Wi-Fi in the parks downtown. We have it at Arlington now. We're working on it at Bayfront as well, which would be free Wi-Fi from the city.
Nice.
Patrick, you had your hand.
Well, up for discussion is whether or not the DSCA rep would be asking a question of Mr. Marlon Brown as to the rationale for making changes to the committee workshop internal process without any consultation with the community.
I'll do that too.
Oh, that's up to, it's up to you to, or the board to say whether or not you think that's a worthwhile question to raise as to. We're not. Or,
you want to throw me under the bus, Patrick?
No, I'm just asking how you want to, how that's going to be discussed there, and whether that's raised as a concern or.
My 2 cents is let that go for now because maybe bigger fish to fry. And but that's my.
Knowing Marlon a little bit, I think he already knows that this is on his radar screen. And knowing Marlon, he probably will already somewhat address that in his remarks, and maybe not. If he doesn't, then.
I personally talked to Marlon, so he knows.
Yeah, so I mean, I suspect he'll address that, but if he doesn't, it's probably a legitimate question to ask.
I think it would be just a matter of record and making people aware. That would be my.
It could be framed in a nicer way. And what are your plans to increase community input into work by having workshops or something?
Okay, I'm of the view not to. Okay. For a whole bunch of subtle reasons. Okay. All right, Rosemary, I finally got some good news, really promising news about the Rosemary Park. They moved 260 grand into that. Talked to Jerry Fogel the other day. They are going to move ahead with engineering drawings once we've got this final rendering done. And they have kind of a design and build is the lingo they use, with the view to have the engineering drawings within 3 months and be put out to bid kind of in parallel with that somehow. He feels there are a number of tree funds available. You know, 3 different, I think, pots of money for trees. So he's looking to utilize those for the trees, and so it's moving ahead. It looks like it's.
How was the money moved? I mean, was it earmarked or I mean, what was the process?
It got 260 grand went to the county. The city asked for it back. It went into a general PIF fund. Now it went from the general PIF fund into something specifically earmarked for the Rosemary. Something like that. Why? Seems pretty complicated. But the punchline of this is, it looks like within a year, you should have the park built. So Jerry seems enthusiastic, and I think he's got a wink from Marlon to get on with it. That's all I've got. So turning over to Jamie, you and Kristen.
Kristen, platinum member. Sam was, and now she's gone. Yeah, Sam was there. She's not
Okay,
here
so
anymore.
we'll just go from environment, and I'm gonna go backwards alphabetically this time. So Gary, I think that's right.
Terry, could you come on over here for sound reasons, please?
Right over here.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So we can see you on the screen.
Hi, everybody. My name is Terry Phelps, and I'm with Socotec Consulting. We are a full-service engineering firm, Florida-based company, 26 years. We can help you with all of your milestone inspections, structural integrity, and any other concrete restoration, roofing, waterproofing that you may need. So give us a call if you need something. Thank you.
And I would say who might be an inside source to the reporting at this municipality level would be the engineers. They have that direct line. I'm not getting anything, but they might, no. So, for that, do the reporting at the municipal.
Oh, yeah, well, that's all, that's the municipal, that's really not
But would they know?
definitive at this point. No, it's just, it's a very broad.
Okay.
Okay, Kristen, come on over here a little closer, so
sorry.
your voice.
Okay, but I'm just gonna introduce who's up next. Let's go with, I think, Lighthouse. Rio Manage, Lighthouse, come on. I've been on the Zooms today. Come on, Rebecca.
Sorry, it's Rebecca. Hi, everybody. I'm Rebecca, COC with Lighthouse to Manage. So we're here for all your property management needs. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thanks for coming. So with the rest of the platinum members, I think that's just me and my group. So I'm gonna go ahead and let some gold members go. We have Serco here today.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you. You're always so generous.
They brought their posse.
Yeah, so everyone, I'm Brandon. I'm with Serpro of North Sarasota. So we're the local Serpro. Our office is right down through Bill. Real quick, I do have a small posse, but we are expanding. So we are growing a lot. We found that we need a bigger team. And so we have recently brought Debbie Schaefer on board. She used to be kind of in the field. She's a cheerleader, so she is the spirit of Serpro now. Everyone, you guys met Paul, he was here last week, so I just want to kind of reintroduce that. But Serpro, we have kind of been on this thing about getting properties informed with their plans, their emergency plans in case something were to happen, hurricanes, natural disasters. We're finding out that a lot of these properties and condos downtown, they don't really have a plan. Their plan is Google a disaster company when it happens. And they don't have anything in place. It's whoever can pay the most dollar for that ad to pop up first kind of usually gets it. And it doesn't mean that it's always the best company for your situation. And so we really have found that it's a free service we offer. We come in, we do an emergency ready profile. It'll just catalog all your emergency shut-off valves, where they're located, list names, phone numbers of all of your emergency contacts, your plumbers, your electricians, your fire department, your closest hospital, and it's a free service. And it comes with basically a service agreement. There's no charge, there's no contract between everyone. You guys are free to use who you want. We just hope that we can prove that we're a superior restoration vendor for you guys. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to myself, Paul, or Debbie, but my email is brandon@serprosrq.com for you guys on Zoom. But just Google Serpro North Sarasota and you can find a way to get a hold of me. So, like it never even happened. I like this guy.
Awesome. Thank you guys for coming. I want to welcome Hotwire for joining. Annika wasn't feeling well, so she had to leave from Berg Simpson. So we're happy to have them with us as well. You guys know what I do. My clients are all in this whole restoration kind of thing that we're going through with regulations. So right way, similar to Serpro, there's not, it's kind of like the engineers, there's not a whole lot to go around. So get on those ERP programs. We're right in the middle of hurricane season. CBIZ insurance, you know what's going on there, maybe you don't. So we're gonna get an update on the 20th for that. Professional plumbing, you got to get those pipes inspected now. It's part of the structural reserve study that you have to get done. So they are your 24-hour plumbers. They can also do your pipelining. And Norton Hammersley, and which is not a platinum member, so forget I said that. And so good tug, of course, is your engineer choice. So anyways, guys, thanks for having me and thanks for having the platinum members. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Okay, we're good to go. Okay. Comments from any member reps? Do we have any final comments from our member reps? Hearing none, our next meeting will be October the 5th, same time, same place. And then we'll work on our guest speaker, either FST people or Never Say Never, Shayla, or whomever. But I hope that we felt Doug Jeffcoat was a decent choice. I thought I was quite pleased that that. So Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, and second, okay, all in favor? Aye. Time for a glass of wine. Thanks, everybody.